Hello. I'm going to go over the questions and the answers for the review at the end of Module 6. I'll also be giving you some other items to study and to go over before you take your test for Module 6. That is on the Google Classroom. That's linked on the Google Classroom. So at the end of Module 6, your study guide for Module 6 begins on page 195. Page 195. For question 1, it's drawing the lines to match the words to their definitions. I have just listed them to which one you need to match, and the first few beginning words to match each definition to its word. The first word is geology, and it should match up with the study of Earth's physical structure, its history, the processes acting on it, and the rocks of which it is composed. The second one is humus, not to be confused with hummus, but humus. And humus is the decayed remains of once living organisms or creatures. It's included in one of the items of soil, which that's something that you need to study and go back and look at, is what things can be included in soil. There's silt, sand, gravel. Those are all included in, and mixed in clay, mixtures of what makes up soil. The next one is minerals, and minerals are inorganic crystalline substances found naturally in the earth. And that's your third word, matching it up with its definition. The fourth word is erosion, and erosion is the process of wearing away or grinding something down by wind, water, or other natural agents. There's two types of weathering. Erosion falls under the physical weathering. There's also chemical weathering. The unconformity is a surface of erosion that separates one layer of rock from the other. So as the rock is laid down, there may be times when that top layer gets eroded partially before the new layer of rock is laid down. And that is the unconformity. Finally, we have fossil. Fossil is the preserved remains of once living organisms. And there are also 4 different types of fossils, which we'll talk about a little bit later in our review. Number 2, it has a picture of the earth, and it wants you to label it according to the different layers that are included in the earth. So letter A is the crust, which is the outside edge of the earth, and there's 2 types of crust, the oceanic crust and the continental crust. Make sure you go back and review those 2 types of crust. Then you have the mantle, which is the next layer, and it is the plasticky rock layer that's underneath the crust. Then you have the outer core, which is made of nickel and can't remember the other one, but it is liquid nickel. And then you have the inner core, which is the solid nickel, along with another type of rock. But make sure you go back and you check out the definitions and where they are or what they're made up of in your journal pages. Number 3 is just circle the word to make the statement correct. So it's the blank, either deeper or shallower in the earth, the higher the temperature and the greater the pressure. So the deeper in the earth, the higher the temperature and the greater the pressure. Number 4, the idea of a broken sheet of styrofoam floating on the surface of water each piece moving depending on how the water moves, and is an illustration of plate tectonics. So number 4 is plate tectonics. Number 5 is circle the correct words for the statement. So the first choice is rocks or minerals. Minerals often form crystalline structures, and rocks do not. So make sure you also know what the 3 different types of rocks that we looked at and that make up the Earth surface. And more information about that is found on page 172. The 3 types of rocks: sedimentary, igneous, and metamorphic. If you turn the page to page 196, question number 7. Scientists tested a pile of sand and rubble that was found below a large rock formation. They compared the rubble's makeup to the rock's formation makeup and discovered they were made of the same chemical composition. So nothing had changed, even though it had fallen off the rock or been eroded off of the rock. Was the sand and rubble a likely result of physical or chemical weathering? The answer is physical weathering. Did I skip a page? Physical weathering. And the reason it's physical weathering is because nothing changed in the chemical composition. Whereas in chemical weathering, the composition, the chemical structure will be different, such as rust, or iron that's been oxidized and become rust in a rock. Let's go back on to page 195. I skipped question 6. You're supposed to circle the correct words for the statement. Most of the Earth's sediments are laid down by water. Water moves those sediments, those small pieces of rock. And most of Earth's mountains were created by Earth's action of the crust, with the moving of those plates and lifting up, one rock going up and one rock going down, creating mountains. Make sure that you know each type of mountains and how they're made, and that's on page 174. That also make sure to know how each of the plains are made and what their definitions are, and that's also on page 174. All right, let's get back to question number 8 on page 196. What is the major carrier of sediments that makes them settle out in layers? We already discussed a little bit on question 6. The answer is water. Water is what makes them settle out in layers and carries them along. Then number 9, what is the most common type of rock in the Grand Canyon? That would be the sedimentary rock, where we see all those layers that look like a cake. Then number 10, a paleontologist discovers a fossil that is preserved 3-dimensional. So you can pick it up like a shell. And it is completely made of rock. What fossilization process formed it? So it would be the mold and cast, which we did in class with our plaster of Paris. We made a 3-dimensional figure of it. But I want you to note that there are 4 different types of fossilization processes, and you need to know the definition for each one of them and what they entail. And that can be found on page 181 to page 182 in your journal. Number 11, what are the 4 features describing? So you have letters A, B, C, and D. Most fossils are found in sedimentary rock. The vast majority of all fossils on this planet are of hard-shelled organisms like clams. It contains the remains of some organisms still living today. And fossils found in one layer of stratified rock can be considerably different from the fossils found in another layer of stratified rock. So all of those describe the fossil record. And you need to be able to identify those 4 fossil record features and know which ones are true and which ones are false. If they're worded differently or if the wording is changed. So make sure you study the 4 true ones so you can recognize any falsehoods. Number 12, circle the correct answers to complete these sentences. The first one starts with uniformitarians believe sedimentary rock formed through slow process millions of years as the waters covered an area of land, then receded, dried up, more water came, it covered it up, it settled out, it withdrew, and it left layers. Much the same way that we see it forming today. And the catastrophics believe much of the geology that we see today is the result of processes that occurred once in Earth's past and will not be repeated. Make sure you know the key beliefs for each group and each theory on pages 186 to 189. And we made some charts and some graphs that cover those key beliefs that they have and what they stand for, and how you can recognize each of the belief systems. Okay? All right. So that concludes the study guide and checking. So make sure you check your answers to see if you have the correct answers. Make sure you study those additional pages or at least review the material before you take the test. Thank you very much and have a great week.